cute punch die turkey treat I'm sharing with you. So cute. I promised you an elementary project. This is what you're getting. I'm going to share with you how easy it was to create it, and hopefully you'll create some too and share some with your family. All right, so let's see. I'm going to start off giving you the supplies that I've used and the tools that I've used. And as usual, I've done some pre-punching and pre-cutting so that you don't have to watch me do those sorts of things. So this project is based on some punches, some dies, and a stamp set. So first of all, I'm turning to my Love of Leaves. Let's see if I can get a little bit more volume on here. Sorry about that. I am turning to my Love of Leaves dies. They are stitch dies, totally cute. And I'll share with you the die that I'm using here. I have snipped it as well. So I'm using the wide leaf, and I married mine together. I've got the stitching going on and I've got the outline cut as well. And let's see, I also am borrowing from my stitched triangles dies. Yes, exactly, Marianne. That's what I shared with you. It is very much a little project that we would create at school and bring home to share with our family, who of course were always thrilled at the little treasures that their students brought home. I'm also using the stitched triangles dies. I'm using the narrow long one that has triangles going in opposite directions. I'm using the largest equilateral triangle and also one of the isosceles triangles. I think it's the largest one as well. Oh, sorry, the middle one. So those are the dies I'm using. I am also using punches. I am using my 1 1/4 inch punch, my 3/4 inch punch. So Nikki, if you love it, I hope that you will make some. These are so totally fun. Those are my dies. Those are my punches. Let me share with you the papers that I'm using. Let me put my turkey back here. Okay, so I'm using the cinnamon cider. Let's see, it measures 9 inches by 7 1/4. I've pre-cut some of those stitched leaves. I've got a pumpkin pie, a real red, a bumblebee, and notice how I didn't even get the whole leaf. I kind of snipped it below. I have one early espresso leaf. Then I also cut the pumpkin pie equilateral triangle and the bumblebee isosceles triangle. Here is my long and narrow die cut with all of those little triangles lined up next to each other. And this was cut from a 7 1/4 by 5/8 inch early espresso. I have a backing of rich raspberry with the same measurements, so 7 1/4 by 5/8. Then I've also got a scrap of Whisper White for the eyes and a scrap of black for the eyes. And very cool, I pulled a scrap that already had my adhesive attached to the back. So very easy to adhere. And Nikki says she doesn't have half of the pieces. Okay, so staples in my stash are those triangles. I didn't think I was going to need them, but I have found I'm using them more and more. You know, I love those let's see, what's the true name? The stitched leaf dies were so sweet from the holiday catalog. You could probably check your stash and see if you have anything similar. So let's get started. Let me show you how easy this is. So, you know, I want to say it's all in the packaging, but the star has to be the giant, the extra large Hershey's milk chocolate bar. You could probably change the measurements and bring it down to one of the standard size Hershey bars, but why settle for that when you could have extra large? So let me get started here. I've got my cinnamon cider, and I'm going to use the 7 1/4 inch to wrap it. This is the height, 7 1/4, and the width is going to be 9 inches. And let me share with you one little trick I used to get the cardstock to kind of bend for me, I took my ruler and kind of like a bone folder, it's an oversized bone folder, and I am just going to sort of distress the paper by curling it, just like we would do on ribbon or smaller pieces with a bone folder. That way it will wrap and not crack or crumble. So I've done that. Very simple. I'm just making it pliable by dragging the ruler across that. I know, Dixie, who wouldn't love a chocolate bar this size? I'm telling you, once you get started on these two, it's hard to stop until the entire candy bar is gone. So here we go. So the 7 1/4 is almost as tall as the candy bar. What I'm going to do is just turn it over, and now I can wrap the candy bar much more easily because that paper has been a little bit distressed. And you know me, my favorite adhesive is always the Tombow liquid glue. It's going to take a little bit of pressure to dry, but no worries, that just makes it really easy. And truly, if I was in the classroom, it's what I would be using anyway. So I'm going to run a long trail of liquid glue on each edge, one there, and then also on the opposite flap. Just going to wrap it nice and tight. So stinking cute. And I have managed to hold on to these chocolate bars in the house for 3 days now. Luckily, the family didn't find it because I have a chocoholic, particularly a Hershey's chocolate, and this one has no nuts, which is even better. So, holding it down into position. All right, so there's my wrap. The next thing I'm going to work on is my headband. And what I've done, you can kind of see, I'm going to push this aside a second. I have my 7 1/4 inch band, and I started the die about 1 inch from one side. That's going to allow me to kind of center that headband with a little bit of leeway for wrapping. And I'm going to back it with rich razzleberry. It gives it more color, plus it's going to hide the trimmings from the leaves. So here we go. I'm just going to add a little bit of adhesive on here because I'm going to totally just adhere it together right there. So remember, not a lot. You don't want it oozing through. And I'm just going to marry these two things together. So now I have more color coming through on that headband. I'm going to build my little headband of feathers. I've got that real red leaf, and I'm just going to snip that center leaf. That's going to be my tallest leaf. It's the one that's going to be right in the middle, and I know I'm not going to need all of it. So I'm going to just put a little bit of glue, a little bit of my Tombow liquid glue, and it's going to go, and I'm not measuring, it's just going to go right there in the center, almost as tall as it can. I do have a little bit oozing out there, so let me see if I can kind of scrape that off just a tiny bit. Clean it up. A little bit of pressure to keep it together. Oh. There we go. So now I'm going to add my other colored feathers, and I'm going to go with the feathers on either side of that middle leaf. So I'm going to get one pumpkin pie leaf and one bumblebee leaf. And these are going to go on either side of the real red leaf, right in the middle there. And again, just a little dot of adhesive. And just angle it off on the side. And again, the bumblebee, sorry, I was already getting confused. It doesn't take a lot to confuse me. Here we go. Either side of that red feather. I know, Marianne, pretty. This lengthy triangle strip is very cool. It would be really nice on a card too without hiding or without putting that other color behind it. So I like these stitched shapes, the circles, the rectangles, the triangles, all of them have a place in my craft stash because they come in really handy. I'm going to pull my early espresso leaf, and I'm going to be using the same leaves, either side of the main leaf. And I need 2 of these. So just going to use my snips to take off that leaf. And a tiny bit of adhesive. Oops. Thank goodness I put my mat down because I can feel it's getting a little bit sticky back there. There we go. And the next one, right over there. So now I've got my headband of feathers, and I am going to adhere that to the main wrap. You can see it goes right in there, and I did pull it down a tiny bit from the top, almost flush with the top of the wrap. So just wrapping that around, and as well on the other side. And I'm going to do the same as I did with the wrap. So I'm going to put adhesive right at the end of one flap and also at the other flap. And I just need to apply some pressure there to make sure that that adheres. I have a tiny little sliver of glue sticking out there, so I just wipe that clean. There we go. And a little bit of pressure to make sure that that's going to stay closed. All right, so now we're going to go with those huge turkey eyes, and I'm going to take my Whisper White scrap, my 1 1/4 inch circle punch. These are going to be flat adhered right onto my wrap. And they're really close together, almost touching exactly, as a matter of fact. Then I'm going to take my 3/4 inch punch. And I think these retired last catalog, but luckily I held on to mine. I love punches. They're so easy. And I think right now we have our dies that can cut the circles, so these are really handy to have. And I did put that adhesive backing sheet on there, so it's going to make it really easy to just peel and stick these little googly eyes on here. I am taking my, let's see if I can find it, my chalkboard marker, and I'm just going to add a little highlights to the eyes. There we go. And next I'm going to add that triangular nose. This one's the pumpkin pie. It's going to be pointing down, so let's see. And I did pop that up with a couple of dimensionals, so a little bit of depth for the nose. Here we go. And I'm going to pull in a piece of my red leaf. I'm going to cut off another one of those petals there. And I can't remember what part this is called for the turkey. I'm just going to attach it right underneath his nose. What's that turkey part called that kind of has that little hanging bit there? There we go. Just going to flat adhere that to the nose and the mouth. So here's the trick with the mouth, because I've just hand drawn it, but I did take my pencil and I started pretty close up right underneath the nose, and I first made just a regular smile, and then I came back in and filled the lower part of the mouth just a little deeper. Now I'm going to take a Sharpie and fill that in, make it nice and dark, and add the smile bit, come back in. There we go. Fill in that little open mouth. And one last thing, we're going to put our little sentiment that comes from one of my old favorite seasonal stamp sets, the Hello Harvest. I'm just going to use that little Give Thanks from this set, and I'm going to stamp it on the Bumblebee Isosceles triangle in Memento Tuxedo Black ink. Right in there. And this is just going to be flat adhered, creating a little mess of all kinds of scraps on here. It's going to be flat adhered to the front of the wrap. Which means I just need to put a little bit of pressure on there to make sure it has adhered. And there you go. There's our punch die turkey treat project for this Friday. I hope you make some for the holiday, which is coming up very soon.